last for this year of the Star Business Solutions webinar series. My name is Norman Hall. Today's webinar will be on Greentree WebView, and it will be part one of the WebView webinars, if you like. And we will have part two in the new year. Note that all our other webinars are on the Star website and the Star YouTube page if you need to access them. I'd like to say thank you to all of those who've given us feedback so far. We've had a lot of positive feedback from customers who like the webinars, and we intend to continue them. So please tell us what you'd like to hear about, and we can put those into our calendar of webinars. In fact, today's webinar and the part two of the WebView webinar have specifically been brought forward because of requests from customers. So once again, Joshua Diffie will be today's main presenter. You all know Josh by now. Today's agenda on WebView, we will cover forms, approvals, inquiries, and reports. Please type in questions into the section as we go. However, we won't be doing a Q&A session until the end. However, if you don't type in the questions as you go, you might forget them and not bring them up at the end of the session. So I'd encourage you to do that. At the end of the webinar, Josh will go into more detail about part two of the WebView webinar, and I'd encourage you to think about who else we might invite to these webinars. So please feel free to send me an email if you want some specific added to the invite list. So from now, I will pass it over to Josh.
All right, thank you, Norman. So as Norman said, this morning we'll be going through the WebView design component of the WebView modules or WebView suite. We will touch on a few elements within Greentree to help show how that all ties together, and at the end we'll talk a little bit about how WebView, reports and documents falls into the equation as well. So WebView is a browser access to Greentree information, and there are three main types of logins. There is a traditional Greentree user, there is a salesperson login, and there is a customer login. There are some other login types, but those are the ones that we'll look at from today's perspective. When a customer logs in, you can have it that they can only see their data, a salesperson can only see theirs, and users, you can limit what access they have to Greentree data as well. So we're going to start by logging in as a regular user. If your system has multiple Greentree companies, then within here you'll get access to all the companies that user has access to. So if I come in here, I'm just going to go into the Australian company for today's demonstration. From here on, it looks completely how you want it to look. So for starters, the WebView browser option has what's referred to as a style sheet, and you can see that this WebView instance looks very similar to the Greentree's look and feel post MYOB's branding. Some users out there have it in blue, some people have it in their own custom colors. You can make it look from a color standpoint how you wish it to look. Greentree's WebView has a menu concept, and that's how you can limit who can see what. So you can assign to a user a menu, and within that menu you can define what pages or are being used. So in my example, I've got it that my first page I'm opening is a WebView form, and it is to provide me information that is similar to what I might be looking at if I was looking at a workflow desktop within Greentree. So I have it showing my purchase order approvals, my supplier invoice approvals, some CRM communications, some CRM follow-ups. If I keep scrolling through, I've got some service requests and so on. You can show any database record within Greentree in a WebView form or any other WebView components that we might be going through today. They can drill down, so you'll notice that some of these are links, and depending on where I'm drilling down to, will dictate exactly what shows up next. So that drilled down to a supplier, whereas I could have drilled down to the supplier invoice, for example. Once I've drilled down, if I have the access, I can keep going as far down as I'd like to go. So once again, I can drill down to that supplier form that I was on just before. If I scroll down a little bit, you'll see I've got my attachments. So we can view attachments within WebView. So in here, I've got a PDF of that invoice, which if I was to open, I can see there's my supplier invoice that's been provided. Now those attachments could have been images, spreadsheets, PDFs, any attachment that you can attach on a record in Greentree, you can have it that users can download that via the browser. In addition, within WebView Forms, you have the ability of having links that can trigger approvals and alerts rules. Now you'll notice up here, I've got this purchase order is currently waiting approval. So the supplier invoice, apology, is waiting approval. And I can see the word approve and then a number of rejection messages. So while WebView is in theory, a read-only access of Greentree data, you can use these approvals and alerts rules and the labels within these links to trigger specific events. So if I was to select approve, if I just copy that so as I remember the invoice, hit approve, that can go off and approve that record. You'll notice the hold code has changed. And if I was to log into Greentree and bring up that supplier invoice, I can see the icons change to green and look at the details that were through. In this case, I was logged in as a super user, so it approved it for both levels. If I round out that example a little bit and go to have a look at one of the other invoices that was requiring my approval, and for whatever reason, maybe we've decided that this invoice had a price variation and we don't approve it, or it had incorrect accounts, or whatever it might be. We'll go with price variation for today's demo. We can have that change the status. And we can see it's been marked as rejected. If I scroll across, I can see the narration has been set as price variation. So as I said, while we don't have data entry directly within the WebView Designer tool, we do have the ability of still having approvals or rejections through the browser. So that can be used for purchase orders, supplier invoices, timesheets, any record within Greentree that has an approval record on it. You can have that displayed within WebView and manage those approvals that way. If I have a look at another WebView form example, and I'm just going to quickly bring up a customer. And I'm just going to go through some of the options that you've got within WebView Forms. So up the top, I can show any database field against that record. So this being a customer, I'm showing their current balances, I can have links that go through to Google Maps. So if I've got that address, I can click on that and that's going to open up the address within Google Maps. I've got the ability of showing pivot tables as well, where you can have interactive selections. So at the moment, I'm showing sales by date. I'm showing it by product group, and it's the sum of the sales value. But maybe I want to know how many, so I can select count, how many sales have I made for this customer by product group and date, or maybe product group by salesperson. So we can see Steve normally looks after this Kangan customer. So you can play around quite a bit with how you've got those set up. If I was to change gears now and take a look at inquiries, so we'll head back to that customer inquiry form, customer inquiry screen that I had open before. The customer inquiry allows you to expose an Explorer query from within Greentree via the web. So the same options that you've got within Explorer queries around filters, which is what we're seeing at the top, and fields you wish to display, which is what I'm seeing in the table below. It uses or reuses the functions within Explorer. So at the moment, I've got it that I can search for customer by name or address. But just to show you how quick and easy it is to add additional fields, if I was to come into my customer inquiry page and maintain my query, it uses the Explorer tool. So if I go ahead and add an additional field to filter by, so maybe I want to filter by the branch, and maybe I'm interested in their branch code, I can drag that in and hit save. I can rename this as well, so it looks a little bit nicer to the end user, and save that as well. Now, the WebView pages are live. So if I just simply hit refresh, that additional filter has been added. So if I come in and say I'm only interested in branch 01, or branch 10, sorry. I can see only the Melbourne branch customers have shown up. You've got the ability within the online inquiries of defining your own groups. So here you can see I'm able to group it by branch, region, and customer type in this scenario. I could have added more, but that's just what I've got in my demonstration example here. So I can say, well, let's group it by customer type. And then I can see that there are 2 as others, 12 as secondary schools, and so on. In addition to the group bys, if I was just to ungroup, you can have a number of different filters. So with larger data sets, so whether that be inventory items, outstanding invoices, etc., you might want to come in and just start typing and further filter those records. So that's using text filters. You can also use select or drop-down filters. These will automatically only show you the options that have been returned within this filter. So if I was to say only do it for branch 10, as I did previously, you'll know, then we can have that filter there as well. If I come in, select Victoria, I can drill that down or filter that down as well. Okay. We primarily use the inquiry tools to drill through or drill down into WebView Forms. So as I showed before, being able to drill down from an inquiry through to the customer in question. But much like I had on my original home screen, an inquiry screen can have multiple drill downs on columns. So while I was drilling down to the customer, if I wish to drill down to a branch or a salesperson or a region, whatever it might be, I could potentially drill down further that way as well. So with the power of WebView, we've got the ability of doing WebView Forms. We've got the ability of doing WebView Approvals. We've got the ability of doing WebView Enquiries. But we also can simply publish or allow users to run Greentree Report Writer reports directly out of WebView rather than having to rebuild the entire process within a WebView form. So these can be any type of report you'd like. So I've got, under my customer, I've got the ability of reprinting a statement. So right here, all these filters are simply what shows within the Greentree Report Writer report as if I was to be printing it within Greentree. So I can still come in and filter, select different dates, decide whether or not I'm ticking boxes. So dates, tick boxes, numbers, etc. will all pre-fill or display as expected. And I'll just go ahead and hit Preview Report. So that's going to go ahead and generate that report as a PDF. And then at this point, I can download it, I can print it, I can do whatever it is that I'd like to do with that report now. Now, whether or not that be forms like statements, invoices, or purchase orders, etc., or whether that be simply management type reports that you wish the users to be able to run themselves, that's completely up to you. Now, those reports can either be set up as the ability to pre-fill the filters in the exact same way you would a report within Greentree. Alternatively, they can be set as a drill down as well. So if I go ahead and look at my purchase order inquiries and hit search now, so yet again, another inquiry screen. If I was to drill through to a purchase order, I've got it set up here that I can click on this purchase order number and it's going to generate the PDF in similar fashion as if I was hitting the printer icon on the purchase order entry screen. So I go ahead and hit print, and based on my rules, I've got it to show copy only and so on, depending on, or the exact same process, as I said, if I was to hit the printer icon on the purchase order form screen. So we'll just go through a couple more of the advanced features within WebView Designer. So if I was to go have a look at another WebView form, and let's take a look at this job. We do have the ability of attaching documents directly via a browser. So I can come in here, browse, and find the attachment that I'm interested in. And I can save that as an attachment, as I said, against the record within Greentree. We do have the ability of doing relatively simple charts. So here I can see total costs versus labor cost, and potentially hours as well. And once again, the ability of showing, the ability to drill down to transactions or show attachments. So if I need to reprint an invoice for that job, I can simply drill through and that's going to reprint that invoice. So showing the exact same information but in a number of different ways. So that's more of the show and tell side of WebView Designer. What I thought I'd do is go through a brief couple of examples of how to update these yourselves and show you just how easy it is to both add fields as well as add potentially entire sections. So if I was to drill back through to that customer, at the moment I'm showing the contacts, their name, their position, phone, mobile, and email. If there was an additional field in there that I'd like to add, I can go ahead and do that, and I'll also show how easy it is to remove one. We bring Greentree back up. Under WebView, we have our form maintenance. And let's bring up our customer inquiry form. So for those that have used the Greentree report writer, you'll see a lot of similarities. The form designer is based off the same concepts. So I was to come in and look at my contacts. If there is an additional field I would like to add, so maybe for argument's sake, we want to show the contact code, I can click and drag that and name it, which will give me the heading label. And maybe I no longer need the title. So I'll simply hit remove this field. Hit save. And as I mentioned before, the WebView tool is live. So simply hit refresh and I can have that updated. If I wish to add entire new sections, so at the moment I'm showing contacts, communications, I keep scrolling down, I've got outstanding quotes, sales orders and so on. If I wanted to add up the top an additional section, just like I would with the report writer, let's go ahead and add a collection, make that a little bigger. We're going to give it a name. And we're going to go and drop the invoice number. Maybe we'll show the total amount. And as you can see, it's quick and easy to simply add fields. You can keep adding as many fields as you wish. Go ahead and hit refresh. And I can see there's my collection of all invoices. Show me the invoice number and the net amount. And I can scroll through and see those transactions. And once again, just to, I guess, show how easy it is to update these on the fly and for non-technical users, I simply hit the enable drill down and say where I would like to go next. So on that invoice number, I want to drill down through to the AR invoice drill down. Hit save. By refreshing that page, I can now drill through to the invoice. So very easy to update these yourselves without need of a huge amount of additional training, as both inquiry screens and the forms are based off existing functionality within Greentree that comes standard out of the box, and a lot of, especially admin type users, but a lot of general users already have familiarity with. Okay, so that's a lot of the general overview and some of those specific areas. If I was to log on out for a second and just show you a couple of those additional user types, as I said at the start, if I was to come in and log in as a customer, I've got that opening up my customer inquiry form, which you'll see that all invoices section I added just before. And a much more restricted menu option. So in here, you could have it that they could reprint their own invoices. They could see where sales orders are up to, as much information as you want to give them access to. Now, while I have the one customer inquiry form shared across both the customers and regular users, that might not work for your environment, because there might be information that you need your sales team to have access to when they look at the customer inquiry form that you don't want customers to see themselves. So that could be internal communications, that could be the status of orders, or anything else that you want to restrict there. The customer inquiry, customer login, is simply managed as an option on the customer maintenance screen. So with the addition of WebView, we'll see a WebView tab where you can allow users access and which menu you wish to grant them access to. Okay, so I thought I'll now open that up to questions. So let's open up the question screen.
Okay, questions, please.
So as far as limiting access within WebView, you can, if you don't want them to have access to HR information, just like that menu option that I showed from the customer side, you can limit what information they have access to, both through the menus, but also then which pages you wish to drill down to.
Okay, first question, how does licensing work for WebView?
So licensing for WebView is based on named users. You simply give user access via their user maintenance to the user maintenance screen, just like any other module within Greentree, with the exception that it's not concurrent users, it is a named user license. In addition to WebView Designer, which is what this session is about, the reports and documents module is also an option there. So if I was to bring up a user preference screen, you've got the ability to say whether or not they're allowed WebView access, which comes back to, as I said, that named user concept.
Okay, well, unless we get more questions, it would appear that Josh has done a fantastic job once again and covered everything that people want to ask about. So while you're thinking about more questions, just a couple of comments. If you do want to know more about WebView, please talk to your STAR consultant. They'll be able to help you out. We are looking for ideas for webinars for next year. So the more you give us ideas, the more we're going to tap into the things you want to know about, as opposed to the things that we think you might want to know about. Once again, if you want to see any of our old webinars, they can be found on the STAR website under the Insights area. Just click on the webinar tab, or you can go to our YouTube page and find them there. Okay, we've got another question. Can the reports be opened in Excel format as opposed to PDF?
By reports, I'm assuming you're referring to those, either that report drill down or the online reports, like I did with, for example, the statement as well as that purchase order. They are PDF only, so not via Excel.
Okay. Hello, can you show me the job costing page?
I sure can. It is also, once again, worth pointing out that these are just demonstration pages. While we do have the ability of importing these demonstration pages into a Greentree, any Greentree system, the real benefit of this is you being able to design these yourselves. So if I come and look at the example job costing inquiry page that I have and drill through to a job cost or a job form, as I said, this is just as an example. So I've got it showing the header level information, so who the project manager might be, what the status is, some costs and revenue and so on. If I wanted to show work in progress, I could have shown work in progress. If I wanted to show labor broken out into different mechanisms, I can do that also. Here I'm showing the job summary where I'm grouping it by work center, and then showing the activity codes with both the quantities, estimated quantities, cost, and estimated cost, similar in nature to what you might see on the job transaction summary screen on a job master file.
Okay. Next question. Can you do quotes in job costing?
Yes, you can do those in a couple of different ways. So while not specifically WebView related, you do have the ability of doing job quotes within our CRM sales and marketing module. Those job quotes can be assigned to a job, or they can create a job depending on what you're hoping to achieve there. Alternatively, you can do those directly through job estimates if you don't need to go through a full CRM set of functions. You will be able to view those quotes or estimates through Greentree's WebView if you've got them set up as a drill down or as a inquiry table. However, you will not have the ability to create the quotes within WebView itself. So to create a quote, in answer to the next question, to create a actual quote, yes, you would need a CRM license, and more specifically, you'd need a CRM sales and marketing license. However, as I did say just before, there's no reason why you couldn't simply use the job estimate to create your quote. However, as I said, if you do need the full CRM functionality of keeping track of versions of quotes, the communications, and have those quotes create jobs on successful or on winning them, then that's definitely a CRM function. Can you drill down to an organization from the customer? You sure can. You can drill down from any direction you'd like. It's just about how you set up the WebView form. So I've currently got it kind of the other way around, just in my demonstration system, but you could go either way. So if I was to come into an organization inquiry, here I'm going to have a look at all my CRM organizations. Actually, let's go to my main menu. I've got some nice drill downs already set up. Let's go have a look at Kangan. So this is looking at Kangan, the CRM organization. And because they are a customer, I do have the ability of setting that as a link to drill down into the CRM customer inquiry form. So depending on what access you wish to grant to people, that's completely up to you. Now, there is no reason why on the customer inquiry form, you can't show CRM information, which is what I'm actually showing here. So contacts, communications, I keep scrolling down a little further. I can see outstanding quotes, as well as what CRM assets are currently against that, excuse me, against that accounts receivable customer. So yes, you can drill down between the two records, but it's just about how you set those up.
Okay. Next question is CRM in WebView.
So CRM, so any record within Greentree can be displayed in WebView, but WebView is as the name suggests, a viewing tool, not a data entry tool. So you wouldn't create quotes through WebView. You wouldn't create organizations through WebView. What you would do is you would simply use this to report on those. We do have the ability of doing sales and service quotes through our sales mobile module, which allows you to do that via a browser, or we can get those quotes in a number of different ways into Greentree, but WebView would not be the tool for data entry.
Okay, is WebView the progression of Greentree browser, or is it another module?
It's another module. So they're used for separate purposes, and so yes, they're completely separate modules.
Okay, next. Okay, any more questions, please? Okay, maybe while we're waiting for some more questions, Josh, can you just tell us very briefly what WebView Part 2 will entail next year?
I sure can. So WebView Part 2 will be focused on the reports and documents module, which is primarily focused on financial reports. So that has the ability of running profit and loss and balance sheet or any other GL-based financial reports, either through Greentree's reports and documents engine within the Windows client. Alternatively, it also gives you the access of running those directly within within the Greentree WebView module. So allowing either non-traditional Greentree users or simply external use to financial reports. In addition to the ability of using it for financial reports, it can also be used to push out or publish via email financial reports to Excel, PDF to different users. And it can also be used through the Greentree browser modules. So whether that be Sales Mobile, HR Mobile, etc., to be able to view either PDFs or Excel of those reports. In addition, it can also give you documents. So the ability of doing potentially policies and procedures or any other form of documentation that you wish to provide to people.
Okay, thanks for that, Josh. And people can watch out for WebView Part 2 in the new year. We have one more question. You have the ability to show communications and follow-ups. Are you able to make a comment against the follow-ups, or do you need to add this through Greentree itself?
So that would require you to add that through Greentree itself, whether that's through Greentree Sales mobile login, or whether that's through the Greentree Windows client. But either of those options, yes, you wouldn't be creating those comments directly through WebView Designer itself.
Okay, I believe that's all the questions. So I think we'll call it quits there. If you've got any more questions, please feel free to ring your star consultant. I'd like to thank you for your time and attendance and patience with us in both today's webinar and the other webinars that we had during 2019. I hope you have a safe and good holiday period, and we look forward to seeing everyone next year.